Okay, so your kid came to you and said, I want to learn how to play the bass. Congratulations, you are an awesome parent with an amazing kid. So let's make sure that the bass that you get them keeps your kid thinking that you are awesome too. So you want to avoid getting something too inexpensive that's cheap and like a toy, but just in case they don't stick with it, you don't want to spend so much money that it was a stupid purchase. Totally get it, totally understand it. Been there, done that. So my first recommendation before we get into looking at stuff that I recommend buying online, let's take a look at this background picture here of a gentleman playing a bass. He's playing a four-string bass. Whatever you get your child, regardless of length, regardless of brand, make sure it only has four strings. The fifth string, believe it or not, will confuse the living heck out of them. None of the learning software, books, videos, tabs that they go to look at to try to learn how to play the bass and learn their favorite songs is going to be for a five-string bass. It's all going to be a four-string bass. Let's make sure that what they're playing is what's being demonstrated to them in all the learning software. Additionally, five-string basses have a thicker neck to accommodate that fifth string, even though they scrunch them together a little. And a thicker neck is harder for a beginner to play than a thinner neck. A lot of people disagree with me there, but trust me, I firmly, strongly believe that. You're not going to convince me otherwise. The other thing I want to talk about, the other thing I want to say before we get started, if your child can sit in the guitar store with the guitar on his leg properly like this on the stool, and he can reach all the way out where this gentleman has his hand and even a little bit further there to the very first fret up by the nut and the head is what this is called. If he can reach all the way out there on that neck on a full scale standard size bass and not strain himself to do so, then he is ready for a full size bass, and you should not be looking at a kid's bass for him, or a short scale bass, or even smaller than that. You need to be looking at a full size, full scale bass for him because he can reach it or she can reach it, and this is the bass that will be best for them. There are fans of short scale basses. They're few and far between compared to those who like full scale basses. There's a plethora of arguments for that. That's not what this video is about, so let's move on. Okay, so I want to go all the way down here to if you got a little kid. If you got a little kid, there aren't a lot of options. Even depending on how young they are and how short their reach is, even the short scale basses that are designed for kids are going to be too short or too long for him, and their reach is just going to be too short. But fear not, there is a perfectly legitimate option that even as a niche item, professional bass players love and enjoy. Those are called ukulele basses, or more commonly called uke basses, or even more commonly than that, U basses. And the brand that I recommend that makes these and specializes in these, and I'm pretty sure the ones that invented them, is Kala, spelled Kala. And the best place I've seen to get these, the best pricing on this I've seen is on eBay. They start at, and all beginner basses that are actual instruments are going to start around this price range. They start at $200 shipped. So this is a good price for this one. This is the Nomad model. It is not the one that I have personal experience with. I used the Rumbler, which when I bought it was $400. But I am told the Nomad is just as good, or you know, definitely going to be more than your kid as a beginner, even an intermediate player, will need to meet their needs. Read great things about this beginning bass, and I think the reason they're able to make them cheaper is economy of scale, but they might also have less expensive, developed a less expensive, less quality preamp as well. I'm not sure. So let's zoom in here and talk about why this bass is good. Well, it's got a shorter neck. Okay, great, but is it really a bass? It looks like a ukulele, Joe. Well, no, this is really a bass. Um, it's got four strings, which I recommend. This tunes, plays, feels exactly like a bass, even though it's got a much shorter neck. They press their finger on the first fret to get or second, third, whatever, and they on a specific fret, trying to get a specific note, they're going to press the same fret position and same string as they would on a full size bass and get the exact same tone and sound out of it. Now, it might sound a little bit different because these have their own specific sound to them and feel to them, but it's going to make the correct tone, and the learning software that they're using or when they're playing through an amp, it's going to sound correct, right? This is a bass, it's not a ukulele. It just looks like a ukulele. It is acoustic electric. This is the only time I'll ever recommend that you get an acoustic electric is in this really small, compact form factor size. Um, it uses rubber strings instead of steel strings, although they do have steel string models. I recommend and prefer the rubber string model. Why? Because the rubber string model is capable of sounding like an upright bass, which most standard electric metal strings are. They can replicate it with software a little bit, but they're never going to sound anywhere near as close to it as this can. And to get something this small making that big of a sound is why professionals love it. Um, the other reason why not get steel strings is, well, we're talking about a little kid here, right? So the less pain, the better. These rubber strings are really malleable and mushy, and when they push on them, they are not going to hurt their fingers, at least nowhere near as much as it would hurt if they were pushing down on steel. So that makes this a major plus for kids because kids avoid pain like the plague. So, and if they get into a lot of pain, they're going to associate the instrument with pain. So this is the most pain-free option on the market. I talked about how it is acoustic, but don't expect them to play around the campfire along with you with your six-string guitar. Your six-string guitar is going to be way loud. This is not going to be that loud. Won't be able to compete with it. You're going to drown it out with your six-string. Um, it's got a preamp. It's an active preamp. It requires batteries. I'm not sure what the battery size is, but whatever it is, if you buy this, buy a ton of extra batteries. Your kid's going to go through them like crazy, especially if they accidentally leave it on. Do not yell at your kid if they leave it on. As an adult, I did it all the time, kicked myself for it all the time, could not stop myself from doing it all the time. You play a bass for a couple hours, you're going to be super tired. The last thing you're thinking about is, oh yeah, I got to go turn off the power. So as an adult, you've been warned, you need to stock up on batteries. There is a strap button on the bottom that on my model, and I'm not sure all models do this, doubled as where you input your cord to play it on your computer or on your amp. I don't believe there's a strap button up top. I believe you need to get an acoustic guitar strap adapter. So you've been forewarned, you need to purchase one of those as well as a strap. Okay, that's as much as I want to go into that because I want to make this a short video as possible. Let's talk about what I was expecting to find on the market and no longer is um, made is new production. It's been discontinued. The Squier Vintage Modified Jaguar Bass Short Scale Bass. Back when I bought these, I think they were still $200 when they were new. They've become something of a collector's item because they're very, very cool looking, very unusual looking with this Jaguar shaped body. That's what they call that shaped body. It has precision pickups and a jazz pickup. You can't really see it all that well. It's got a short scale neck, which is shorter, and the overall length is shorter than on a full scale bass. But as you can see, it's quite a bit longer, so little kids won't be able to reach out there. Um, the tuners were entry level. The pickups were all entry level. It was not the best bass in the world, but for the money, it was worth it. I would say it is not worth more than $300 shipped. Just not. I don't even know that it's really worth the $300 shipped, other than the fact that your other options on the market are few and far between. Um, Something not to get: Square Bronco bass. Square Bronco bass is still in production, I think, right? But it is not a very good bass. It's short scale, that's not the problem. The problem is it has a really underpowered pickup. And if you get this bass and try to use Rocksmith or any other electronic software with it, it's not going to be loud enough for that software to detect it and hear it. And even if you can get it to play without it thinking that you're unplugged, it's going to count all your hits where you played the right note. It's going to count a lot of those as misses. So this is a bad option for a beginner bass, even though it's from a brand that I like for beginners, Squire. Okay, but Squire is just not making short scale basses right now. So the only company that I could find making a short scale bass that is reputable and has a really strong reputation behind them and has a really strong fan base is Ibanez. And you're thinking, never heard of them. Well, hopefully you have because they're a pretty big company. They also are pretty big with acoustic guitars. But like I said, avoid the acoustic electric bass. Um, this is a very rock and roll looking, which, probably what your preteen or teenage kid is looking for, short scale bass. So if they require a short scale bass, and you want something new in the box, right? You don't want to get them something pawn shop or used. And then for around $200 shipped, you can get this, this is what I've seen this at other places as well. You can get this model. Um, it has like the Jaguar bass I showed you, it has the PJ style pickups. The only thing is I have no idea what the width of the neck is at the top. I'm sorry, I'm not that big of an expert on these. But brand new out of the box, this was the most convincing option I could find. Based solely on brand name, the fact that this brand not only makes entry-level basses, but they make intermediate to advanced basses as well. Saul Huntington, Jay Tersner, a few others. I don't have the same confidence in those brands. They do make basses in this price range. Between those, I would go with the Ibanez over them if I were the one trying to find a bass for my kid. A little bit more expensive option, the Hofner Ignition Series Vintage Violin Bass, $350. If you can afford it, great. If you can't afford it, I totally understand. That's why I showed you the Ibanez. Um, this is a bass that I've played. I have confidence in. It is based on the Paul McCartney Beatle of the Beatles, the bass that he played in the original. This one's the Hofner Series one. This one in particular, with the sunburst color, is designed to look as close to his as they could possibly make it um, from an imported base. I believe these are China, they might be Indonesia, two places where entry-level bases are made. Um, I have a violin bass from a company that supposedly was made in the same factory as the Hofners that I absolutely love. Some Hofner fans say they compared the two and said that the Hofner was way, way better of a bass. If that is the case, then this is going to be a fabulous bass for your kid that they can grow into, because even as an intermediate to maybe advanced player, I still pick up my um, violin bass, my entry level violin bass from Pele all the time, because a very unique feel, a very unique sound, and it's just fun to play. Um, so let's talk about what to get the kid if you want to spoil them. The Fender Mustang PJ bass, if your kid has demonstrated an ability to play, or you have money burning in your pocket and don't mind the fact that it might just not get played and become wall art, this is some seriously, seriously cool wall art and a very cool instrument that your child can grow into. This is unlike Squire, which is licensed by Fender. This is an actual Fender. This is a you have arrived as a musician, what people aspire to when they're learning, the someday when they can justify spending the money on a Fender. This is where the Fenders start. This is the least expensive Fender bass that you can get. It is short scale. It has a jazz width, as far as I know, neck on the top. When I picked it up and played it, felt like it was jazz. I pick these up at stores all the time. I'm constantly tempted to buy them, even though I'm not a short scale fan. It's just a very, very cool bass. Why is this worth more than the Squires or other ones I've showed you? Better electronics, better pickups, better materials, better tuners. Everything works better, everything sounds better. And, it's worth the additional cost to get this if they're actually going to play it. And as a beginner, you don't quite know that yet. The very, very coolest thing that your kid's going to love about it the most, because they don't quite know how to tell the difference between them, is that this thing says Fender on it, doesn't say Squire or Ibanez or, Hofner. It's the cool, everybody loves this brand bass. So that's it for my recommendations. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue providing more great content for you. Thank you so much for watching.